Hey everybody, welcome into Rock Painting 101, where we give you fun, new rock painting ideas that anybody can create. I hope you enjoyed the tutorial. If you do, give it a thumbs up and don't forget to subscribe. Let's get painting. So this tutorial was previously recorded over on Facebook Live. For some reason, the sound didn't download with it. So these are the doodles we're working off of today to create these 4 fun, cute Halloween rocks. So I'll probably refer to this a couple times throughout the video. I got these really cute stones. I will make sure to link to where I get my rocks. These ones are from Etsy, from Shelly Stones. She sent them to me and they're perfect for little kindness rocks. I'm making a bunch. I put them on my table with candy for trick-or-treaters. So I'm gonna kind of talk my way through this tutorial, try to remember all the tips and tricks that I let you guys know when I was live. I was using my blow dryer in the live, so I will fast forward through some portions of this. We are going to start off with our ghost rocks. So we're going to lay out our design, a nice big arch, almost like a rainbow, and then like a scalloped edge along the bottom. The amount of little dips here at the bottom is totally up to you. As you fill in your design, you can kind of change around the outline a little bit. We are going to add on a couple little arms, and then we're going to fill this in white. We're going to do this first just because with white paint pens, you're often going to need a second coat. And even though he's a ghost, we want him to be mostly colored in. Even if he's a little translucent at the end, we're okay with that. So like I said, since this was already done live, I'm going to speed up a certain section of this video just to make it a little less down space. So I'm just filling it in with a decent coat. I'm going to adjust my outline a bit to give it more of a flare at the bottom. Now we're switching out to start our candy corn rock. So for this candy corn, I am using my extra fine tip orange artistro. I'm going to do the lining of this rock in orange. I'm not going to give him a black outline. So you're basically making a tall triangle shape, but we want to have rounded tips to it. Since we're filling this in, you just want to make sure the outside edge is kind of where you want it to be. You can always overlap over the orange to kind of fix your shape if you need, but just a rounded edge. And then we're going to split it into 3 sections. The yellow at the bottom is usually pretty small. And then we have the orange in the middle here. So we're going to go ahead and start filling that in. Now, since I'm using my extra fine tip to fill it in, I'm kind of tilting it slightly to the side. Not only will you cover more space quickly, but you will also protect that nice pointed tip to your paint pen if you kind of do it on a slant when you're filling in large spaces. Next, we're going to fill in the yellow. I've got a 1MR Posca paint pen for this. I've got a lot of different paint pens I'm using today. Obviously, we have a link down below where you can get to our Amazon shop that's full of paint pens. I just kind of grabbed the colors I needed. Now, when you're filling in your other colors, the yellow and the white, when we do it at the top, you do not want to touch that orange if the orange is still wet. You can come back in with your color and get it really close to the outline. You just don't want your colors bleeding together. And that way you have all 3 colors separated on here. So next I'm doing the white. So now we're going to work on our little pumpkin. So for this one, I have a different pen. Again, this is the 3M or the fine tip Posca paint pen that I'm using to create my pumpkin shape. So we're going to go ahead and create our pumpkin. Even though we're going to fill it all the way in, I'm just going to break it down. So I start with an oval, and you can either do an oval shape off to the right and then off to the left, or since we're gonna be filling it all the way in, you can do the complete oval shape if that helps you to create your pumpkin shape onto your stone a little easier. And we're just gonna go ahead and fill this whole thing in as well. I am planning on doing the lining on this with a lighter orange, so it's okay that you can't see the indents and creases. Next, we're going to start our little vampire bat, and I was showing off here, see how you can tell that the colors not mixed together? That's one of my favorite thing about the Artistro extra fine tip paint pens is you can tell that you need to shake them. I think sometimes we don't shake our paint pens enough. They flow best when they're shaken up really well. Give them a little pulse on a piece of paper so that paint is really flowing. So like our other designs, we're going to lay down our basic shapes for our little vampire bat. We want to get these filled in so they can start drying. So we are going to do kind of a sideways oval, not quite a circle. Again, as you place this down on your stone and fill it in, you can work on those edges. We're going to fill the entire thing in with this light purple color. It's funny, this color reminds me of the Count from Sesame Street, his puppet color. So we're going to get our shape on here. We're going to fill him in quickly. Here, I'll speed that up. And then we're going to add on a couple ears and a couple wings. And we're going to touch this up with lining as well. So we're just putting the shapes down so they can be filled in with this purple. And as you can kind of see here, most of my rocks still look a little bit wet. So we are going to play around with adding some things in. And like I said before, I am hitting these with a little bit of a blow dryer for dry time. So don't rush your rocks. Give them time to dry completely. I'm going to do a second coat on this ghost. And then we're really going to start decorating and adding all the fun details to these designs. I am going back to the candy corn to do the second coat now that the orange outline is dry. And you can take your white and go slightly over that orange. Just make sure it's really dry, just to thin out the outline just a bit. I'm going to do the same thing here now with the yellow. Heading back to our pumpkin, we're going to add on our stem. So we're going to start where the indents of the first middle arch is and create our base of our stem where it connects to the pumpkin. And then we're going to make our thicker part of our stem coming up onto our stone. Just bring it to a point at first, and then you can kind of thicken it up and decide how tall do you want the thick part of your stem. I always love to add vines on my pumpkins. So I'll bring kind of the stem up to a point, and then we're going to find a place to kind of curl off our vine. I do try to make the vine kind of land on the pumpkin so it's not just floating in space. And then once you decide where you want it to be, you can also thicken up the line where it attaches to the stem, because usually they get thinner the further away from the pumpkin stem that they are. So I'll just kind of thicken up just this one portion here. And then we'll even add another little vine going off the left-hand side as well. And again, oh, I missed. I didn't land on my pumpkin there, so we're going to fix that. Like I said before, I like it to land on the pumpkin. And then I did decide I wanted to do a second coat of the orange, just so it's nice and bright when it's finished. One of my biggest tips for you if you're doing a second coat, A, you want that first coat to be dry, and B, when you're laying your paint down, make sure that paint pen is flowing. You shouldn't be pressing hard. If you're pressing hard, you might pull up some of that paint below. You could get some of that more dry paint into your paint pen tips, which can kind of clog them up a little bit. So just be laying it on top as best as you can. Pulse it on a piece of paper. Make sure it's flowing really well when you're doing your second coat, especially if you haven't waited a really long time for that first layer to dry. All right, we are going to outline our bat here. Our ghost. I am going to push the arms back by doing the line separating the arms from the ghost. That's just a preference. You could just outline around those if you want. I do have 2 coats of white paint on here. You could add a third if you wanted to, but again, like I said earlier, him being slightly translucent, he's a ghost, so it kind of works. So we're just taking our time. I like to pull my strokes downward. If you're noticing, I turn my rocks a lot. I don't like to try to kind of go up and around when I'm doing my lining. I like to pull towards myself. So do what works best for you so that you can get nice thin lines. You don't want to have to go over them multiple times. And I'm checking to see, I don't know if his body was dry enough at this point. Let's see if we go ahead and start doing our eyes. I believe that I'm going to, yes. So we're going to do wide set eyes on here. You do want them like to be above your arms. It would be kind of strange if his eyes were lower than his arms. They don't have to be much higher, but you want them higher than your arms. And we're just doing 2 wide set black circle eyes here.
And sorry, my hand's a little bit in the way there on that. And then we're going to do a little smile in the middle. But first, we're going to add a couple little eyelashes. Our ghost is going to be a little girl ghost. So this is the opposite. I actually am going out and away when I do my eyelashes, and then a little smile in between. And this ghost is almost done. There's a couple more little details that we add to it to make it just a bit cuter, and we're going to start by pulling out our pink and giving some rosy pink cheeks to her, which is very cute. So this one is my extra fine tip, but it's an older one, so the tip isn't quite as pointy. So we're going to add these little pinks, just the outside of our eyes. And that ghost is just about done. We are going to come back and add highlights to the eyes. Now we're going to go ahead and start outlining our bat. Again, we're going to push the wings and the ears back. So we're just going to complete the oval all the way around the outer edge here. And as you see, I'm still rotating my rock. I have a hard time doing really long, I got a little wobbly there, really long straight lines. It just is something, I drink too much coffee probably. So we're going to outline our wings here, and we're going to outline our ears as well. And my paint was slightly damp, and so there's a couple areas. I'll show you what happens if you're still a little damp. It will kind of make your outline a little bit fuzzy. So I'm going to, I believe, show that here in just a moment. So we're going to get our ears outlined. It might not be until after I finish doing the widow's peak. But yeah, see how that's a little bit fuzzy there. So we might have to reline that area. So I think we're going to set this to the side. We're going to let it dry a bit before we start adding more details. So back to our pumpkin, I'm using the lighter orange, the extra fine tip, light orange, that this is the one we used inside the candy corn, to outline my pumpkin shape. I just didn't want it to have a harsh black outline on this one. I'm kind of doing two with black outlines and two without, so you can kind of see the difference. It's really up to you what you prefer, what style you want to create. So I'm going around the outer edge first here, and the pumpkin is still a little bit wet. My green is very dry. I didn't do a second coat on the green though. It's where that second coat, a second layer takes a little bit longer to dry just because it doesn't soak into your rock like that first layer does. Now we are going to come back and create our indents from kind of the different sections of the pumpkin, which will give it a little more definition, but we're going to wait till that orange is a bit more dry. All right, so I hit this with the blow dryer to get that dark orange paint nice and dry before I'm going back over. Again though, you want your paint pen running well, and you should be able to use a really light touch to put the paint on. You shouldn't have to press really hard with these paint pens for them to go. So just those two little lines really help section out the pumpkin. And then we're going to go in next and add our face. Now, just like our ghost, we're using an extra fine tip paint pen. We're doing two wide set eyes. I didn't want to do them on any of the light orange lines, so we're putting these extra wide. So I'm going to make them a little bit bigger. And then we'll put our little smile in the middle. We're going to set him off to the side to dry all the way before we add his highlights. Now back to our bat, we are going to go ahead and add on a widow's peak to the top of our bat design. So I'm starting just above kind of the wing area here at first to kind of give that little area that we're going to fill in with our black to give that kind of widow's peak area to it. My wings are slightly off as far as how high they are up on the design, which is totally fine. It's not going to be a big deal, but just try to kind of have it in general come down the side of the head about the same amount of space. I do end up pulling them down a little bit further later on because of my kind of wiggly line there on the side. So you can also use that opportunity to fix your outline a little bit if you need to. Okay, we're going to finish up our first design here. Like I said, we're going to come back. We've got an extra fine tip paint pen. We're going to do a couple highlights. You want your highlights to be consistent on both. So the upper right hand corner on both sides. And she is done and adorable. Now we're going to go ahead and add our eyes, I think, on the pumpkin next here. So there's two different ways. You could do the single dots like I did on the ghost. Since this pumpkin's eyes are a little bit bigger, I'm actually going to do a double dot. And so I dot in one place a few times just so that it kind of expands a little bit. I don't try to actually draw circles and then dot just slightly lower. So you might be able to see how I'm just kind of dotting in the same place and then a second dot lower. And now our little pumpkin is complete. Next, we're going to come back to our bat to add our dark circles and our smile. And I believe, if I don't do it this moment, we do add a little teeth as well. Might give that a second to dry, the smile, so that it doesn't pull the white in. So we're giving our bat some little pink cheeks as well. We're going to get the candy corn eyes going here, so those have a second to dry. So again, wide set eyes, I'm doing them right on the line between the orange and the yellow, and a nice little smile. We're coming back to add those little fangs, teeth for our little vampire bat. Some nice little triangles there. And then we are going to go and do our highlights on our candy corn. And on this guy, I think I'm going to do the... I don't remember if I do one or two. Just the one, looks like. Okay. And then we're going to go back and finish our eyelashes, I believe. I'm not sure if I make it to the highlights on the bat. I was just hitting so much dry time, but I do have an image right here of all of them completed. So I really hope you found 1, 2, 3, or maybe all 4 of these designs that you will give a go this Halloween season. I'm going to link to our Halloween playlist right here. If you're not subscribed yet, make sure you do that. We'll be back soon with another fun rock painting tutorial for beginners. Bye-bye.